Iron Fist Season 2. This is going to be a spoiler review, spoiler talk, so if you don't want to know any spoilers, obviously, then you probably don't want to watch this video. You might not even care too much about this review or the show because Iron Fist Season 1 was pretty damn crappy. But this new season is a huge improvement. It's still not like a great show. I'd still say it's probably the least interesting of the Marvel Netflix shows, but it was a pretty big improvement. I actually zipped through the episodes this time. There was only 10 episodes, so it went a little bit faster instead of the normal 13, but it just kept my interest. I thought the biggest issue with Season 1 is the show had no real direction. It just kind of spun its wheels. There was no end game, jumping out at you like, okay, here's the hero, here's the bad guy. He's got to stop the bad guy and save the city. There was none of that. It's just like Danny kind of doing his thing and trying to get back into society. And yeah, there was bad guys in the background doing stuff, but it just never seemed to be going anywhere. And never look at this big collision at the end where you're like, okay, Danny's got to beat this guy up because the main bad guy was just a businessman with really no legitimate fighting skills. And it's not like he was sending like an army after Danny. It was just weak. This season much better. You got a Davos who's pretty much the same as Danny. They were trained the same. They both got almost equal skill. Danny was slightly better than him. He's beaten him a couple times in the past. But Davos was planning this, attacking Danny for a while and working with Joy, and he's able to get the jump on him and steal his Iron Fist. And that was pretty cool. Davos is the new Iron Fist. Danny eventually's got to take his power back, but this is where it was lacking. It was a good thing. You got a personal tie to Bill, and you got two evenly matched characters. One now has the advantage because he stole the superhero's ability, but there was not really any high stakes. It's like, yeah, Davos was getting a little carried away with his powers, but it wasn't like they were going to overrun the city or he was going to kill someone like the mayor or anything weird. It wasn't like a ticking clock, like this guy's got to be stopped and he's got to be stopped now. It's just like, I don't know, it was just mediocre. I mean, for the most part, he was kind of like, he was like the Punisher with an iron fist. I mean, he was going after bad guys, he was going after criminals, he was killing them. The only difference is, and he really only did it a couple times, that he took out people that were either innocent or he was willing to take out people that are innocent because he was kind of getting paranoid, and it just didn't go far enough to be like, this guy's got to be stopped necessarily. And then he had his whole little band of kids that he put together, which they were just cheesy. This ended up reminding me of like the friggin' kids from, I think, like the first Ninja Turtles movie, like kind of hanging out in their little lair, and then they get trained by the evil bad guy, and they end up not even doing shit. Like, they learned all this kung fu, and then they just came out fighting with like sticks and chains at the end, and they all got their asses handed to them by one person. The other biggest problem with Iron Fist initially was Danny himself, just a pretty bland character. I mean, I liked him at first in Season 1. He was kind of likable, smiling, having a good time, and then he just basically bitched and moaned the rest of the season. He's never happy, always lashing out about stuff. He had nothing better to say than, I am the immortal Iron Fist. They improved him quite a bit for a good chunk of the Defenders, but once again, he kept dipping back to, old habits. The Danny that we got to see in that episode of Luke Cage was awesome. He was just completely laid back, completely chill. Someone like just totally like centered, giving Luke some good advice. And unfortunately, we don't get that version of Danny. We kind of get like a middle ground of him and the Defenders Danny. He's stressed out. Obviously, your hero's got to have problems. He's not going to be happy-go-lucky the whole season. But you don't really see that happy-go-lucky side of him. He's stressed out. He's trying to protect the city. I think, especially because he's got Colleen there to help ground him, it was a little more relatable. Like, he's trying his best, but he's not like too over the top with it. He just didn't really stand out. He actually really didn't get that many fight scenes. I know they gave him a lot more prep time this time because previously he got a couple quick, rehearsals in. He had to do his fight scenes. They never looked right. There's a lot of bad cuts, a lot of stunt doubles. Much better this season. except for the really few fight scenes that he actually had. I think Colleen had many more fight scenes than he did. But again, he was definitely improved. He had a better villain to face, and I think just that alone is enough to kind of help your season. And then your supporting characters, once again, Colleen pretty much trying to steal the show from him. She had her own story arc, but it was nowhere near like last season. It was like a small thing going on in the background about this mysterious box and her family history, and it kind of got dropped, which seemed a little weird, but then it actually ended up becoming pretty important in the end game. And I think the really big payoff on it apparently is going to have to wait till season 3 if they do announce one. And when they haven't even announced the Luke Cage season 3 yet, so who knows. But this time, instead of, she was pretty much at Danny's side, like just being either his girlfriend or a friend or fighting by his side. She just had pretty good storyline going just in general. What really worked with her is when she would team up with Misty Knight. And the whole Misty Knight thing was a little odd because she just seriously just kind of popped up out of nowhere. She literally just jumps out of a car and just completely fell out of place for the story at that point. And it took a few episodes for her to get in the groove. And the more she teamed up with Misty, and the more she was trying to help kind of outside the law instead of going by the book, the more she fit into the show. And she ended up sticking around for pretty much the rest of the season. She was a full-on main character. As far as the returning characters, Joy and Ward, it's kind of... I never bought Joy basically turning evil at the end of season 1. And it was just odd this season, the way they did it. And she never had like a clear end point. Like she had the stuff brewing in the background and either never really panned out or wasn't like what you thought. Like she seemed like she was going to start her own business and maybe try to take over something in the city, or she had really evil plans for Danny, but it was just basically watching him get beat up and lose his power, and she was trying to start some solar business, and it was just kind of weird. Ward was almost kind of pointless. They just felt like they had to have him in there because he was a main character, so most of his arc was him dealing with his alcoholic substance abuse problems. So he had all his AA scenes. And it was okay. The character was likable enough, but his story didn't really add much. And he's kind of popped up when they needed him. Like, oh, we all got to do missions, but Danny needs to recover. So Ward, you stay here and watch him, or you stay here and watch Joy. Help me, do this and that. As far as a new character, we did finally get Typhoid Mary, which on multiple levels kind of ruined the surprise, because not only did they say we're getting Typhoid Mary, but when they announced the cast, they told us that we're getting Alice Eve playing Mary Walker. And then the show tries to say, oh look, here's this girl named Mary, and then people keep talking about this person named Walker, and right then and there, if you were paying any attention going into the season, it's the same person. And especially if you know the comics, Typhoid's got split personalities. They definitely kind of nerfed Typhoid quite a bit. First of all, they never call her Typhoid. She's either Mary or she's Walker. And they hint that she's got a third personality, but they never give it a name. She has apparently no superpowers, no telekinesis, no pyrokinesis, like the comic book version. Maybe the third Mary could have those powers, especially now that Marvel has Fox, or Disney I should say, bought Fox. They have the rights to the X-Men, which means you could go back to Typhoid being a mutant, so maybe her third persona's got the cool superpowers. Definitely not a bad character, just I don't know how much the hardcore Daredevil fans were like this version of Typhoid. There's not a ton of other stuff I want to cover. I'll get to a lot of it as I go through my little notes here. Actually, the first thing is that first time we meet Typhoid, it was such a odd intro. Like, it just seems so shoehorned in there, the way they did it. As you see later on, I guess it makes sense the way she was following Danny and how she ran into him, so it can work later on, but at the time it was just stuck out like a sore thumb. Like, oh look, here's this new character, everybody. Let's have her be friends with Danny. And this episode, and a lot of them had a bad habit of having this dramatic ending, and it wasn't as dramatic as they thought. Like, look, Danny's punching a metal door a whole bunch of time. Typhoid keeps folding pieces of paper, and I don't know what that was supposed to mean. It was just kind of corny. It wasn't any like, oh my god, I have to see what's happening next. That second episode was weird too, which they had this really odd part, which I called like a double rape scene, where Joy wanted Davos to hook up with this woman from the auction house, and she wanted it, but Davos didn't, so he's kind of getting rough with her. It looks like he's either going to rape her or kill her, and then she's kind of getting on him, and he really doesn't want her. She's kind of raping him. It's like a double rape. This was the fourth episode, kind of threw me, because it started off with, like, I guess, I don't even want to say it was a flash forward or not, or the show goes to a flashback. Either way, you basically seen Danny at the ass end of getting beat up by Typhoid, and then the way it jumped, it was like, they were talking about what happened the night before, but it felt like, almost like they were talking about what just happened. It just threw me, I almost felt like I missed something. And then it just seemed kind of weird that, like, basically all night, Davos, Joy, and Mary are just sitting there chit-chatting about who gave those pictures to Danny, and her denying what happened and not explaining, and they were just sitting there all night arguing about it or talking about it. It seemed kind of odd. As far as Davos being the Iron Fist, I wish they would have shown more of it. There's a lot of him going in the building, and you hear people getting beat up, and then you might see like a flash of his fist, and then he comes out. Like, you don't have to show like every major fight scene, but they could have shown a lot more. I think we only seen a couple of good times of him going in and like kicking people's ass. And then there was a couple episodes that had flashbacks, and sometimes they felt a little out of place. They just kind of randomly like would put their head down or hit the elevator door and would cut to a flashback, and it just seemed, I don't know, they were just kind of placed weirdly. They were interesting. They added lots of Danny and Davos' relationship. They added lots of Davos' backstory. How his mother basically raised him to be a champion, and he failed, and like how mean she was to him, but she still cared about him. You know, it added a lot to the character, but it was just placed oddly. Overall, though, pretty good fight scenes again. Like I said, Colleen had the best ones. Her taking out 2 out of the 3 tattoo artists. Her fighting all the Ninja Turtle gang wannabe kids. Her fighting a bunch of people in the restaurant. I mean, she pretty much just whooped ass all season. I think they almost got a little too over the top. I don't know, just the way Danny got his leg broken, and then, you know, this big surgery sequence where it was just so dramatic. It's like he just got a broken leg. It wasn't like, you know, he might not survive. It'd be better if, like, maybe his other wound opened up and you're worried about him. I mean, you're not going to kill off the star, but still, like, for a minute maybe worry about his condition. But it was just a leg, and everyone was acting like he was like near death. Pretty late in the season, I was convinced like some of the main cast was absolutely dying. I was actually pretty shocked everybody survived. And then they hinted about Colleen taking Iron Fist, and then you think about it, as bad of a rap that Danny's gotten for the show, the character and the actor, Finn Jones, I thought it was pretty crazy. They might flat out just make her the Iron Fist, and, you know, Danny's done. I thought that would be a pretty ballsy choice. I mean, I kind of feel bad for the actor, because I thought they were all trying to improve the character, but it was pretty intriguing that they were going to go that route. And then, you know, the very end, kind of mixed feelings about it. You know, it's cool seeing Colleen as the Iron Fist, and that she could also channel her chi into her sword, which is something that characters can do in the comics. So that was a nice touch. The Danny and Ward looking for Orson Rando was pretty cool. That's, you know, pretty important character to the Iron Fist mythos in the comics. Danny having those guns is interesting, because is he just having chi power from the weapons, or is he somehow being able to channel some of his own? Because his hands were glowing, not just the guns. The effects look corny of him shooting that bullet, but it was a pretty interesting ending. You know, they do another season. I think you know, got a lot of possibilities to do a lot of unexpected things. That's about all I got. Like I said, it was actually, like, season 1 I would not recommend to watch unless you were really hard up for something to watch, or you really liked your Marvel or the Iron Fist or karate stuff. And season 1 was pretty mediocre, but season 2 was very watchable. I think you could sit there and have a good time watching it. Obviously, if you didn't see season 1, you're not going to understand some of the character dynamics and some of the other stuff that happened, but, you know, you're just better off going on Wikipedia or Googling it and looking it up if you really don't want to watch season 1. I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was, I said 3. I could have probably went 3. They just, a few tweaks here and there that kind of took me out of it. Maybe it's just expectations. Maybe sometimes it was seeing something in the advertising that kind of ruined a surprise. But I'm comfortable with the 2.5 out of 5. That's about all I got, so thanks for watching.